Good morning. My name is Charlene Richardson Brinson, and many of you know me. I've been here most of my life. First of all, I just want to thank you for coming today, because in some circles this is kind of taboo, because we still don't want to talk about it, because we don't want it. We think if we don't talk about it, it won't happen to us. I also want to thank the Health and Wellness Ministry here at the church, because this is an important work, a very important work. So thank you for the work that you've done and sticking to the job and making sure that the message gets out, and that's why the numbers keep growing. I have a twofold message to share with you today. First of all, ladies, men, get your annual mammograms. Please, I can't say it enough. My story is a little different from the ladies here with me. You see, there is no, and please bear with me and give me some grace. This is new for me. But I knew when it happened, this would be the place that I would share it. The Lord showed that to me very early. I went for my mammogram in October, like I normally, well, I called in October. Of course, they didn't have any appointments, so it went to November. And this was November of 2023. And I had my appointment in November, and they called me back. That was not new. I go back for a second one almost every time, because I also have dense breasts. When they called me back the third time, then I became concerned. And so when they took the biopsy, I began to pray. See, that's my first go-to. I've been living long enough to know. See, I ain't young like these folk here. I just tell y'all I'm 21. But I started to pray, and I said, Lord, you know I don't want cancer. But I do want to be in your holy will. And if it's your holy will that I have it, please let it be a 0 or a 1. I've always been told, if you want something, when you pray for it, be specific. I was real specific. 0 or 1. Give me the low numbers. And so they took the biopsy. They called me when I was home. I was so glad I wasn't driving. I don't know what I would have hit. But they called me and they said, your results are positive. And so they immediately gave, I knew it was bad, because they immediately gave me my appointment the same week with the surgical oncologist. And went in to see Dr. DuPont. I had a support team member that was meeting me. I got there a little bit early. They hadn't gotten there yet, but since I was early, they went ahead and took me back. Dr. DuPont knew that I was afraid. Even though I was praying, the carnal side is still there. And so she took me back, and she met me in the hallway, and then she took me back, and she looked at me. I was shaking like a leaf, and tears were streaming down my face. So she took me back and examined me. She said, let me tell you, there are two things I don't see in your future. I don't see chemo, and I don't see a mastectomy. So that relieved a little bit of the pressure. But I'm still here. And so she also wanted me to get an MRI. So Amy and I have worked together for years. I'm not bossy like Amy.
She really was.
But I did tell the doctor, well, she sent me, I was at Watson Clinic, the machine was broken. I said, so when will a part be in? And they said, we're not sure. I said, okay, I'll give it a couple of days. After a week, I called them back. I haven't gotten a call back. When is the part coming in? Well, we're not sure. I said, okay. I called my doctor. You cannot give me information like this and think I'm going to sit on it. Give me a referral. And so she was very gracious. She understood my plight, and she gave me a referral. I went ahead and got had the MRI taken, and then I came back, and she told me when the surgery was going to be. In the meantime, I said, Lord, my mom, my grandmother, my sister, and my father are all gone. My husband is disabled, and my children live out of state. I'm gonna have to go through this all alone. He immediately spoke to my spirit and said, I will never leave you or forsake you. When I tell you that God sent people to me, I didn't ask one person to go with me. I didn't ask one person to do a thing. God just put people in my life. And then there were some people that I thought that I should tell. Because you know God needed my help a little bit. But it worked out that I couldn't tell them. There were people that I called. When I called them and they started talking, they were inundated with whatever. So I didn't share it. There were some people that I called, and when I started talking, they were sick themselves. So I didn't tell them. There were other people who didn't call me right back. Now, you know, I was kind of like, when I had to get that MRI, and I can't talk to you right now, we got to go on to the next person. When they called me back, I didn't share it. Because in my spirit, I knew they weren't in place because I wasn't supposed to tell them. But when I got there for my surgery, my support team was there. They were there, ready to make sure that I had what I need. But let me just back up a little bit. See, first of all, I didn't tell my family until the surgery was scheduled. And I had several doctor's visits, the biopsy, the MRI, because my family is, when you tell me, you got to give me answers. I didn't have answers. I didn't know what to tell them. And so when I called, well, we have a family call every Saturday night at that time. And I got on the phone and I said, but I called that day and I said, is everybody going to be on the call? And my daughter said, oh, I thought you had found some money in Nana's house. Not. So when we got on the call, I said, so where are your spouses? Because usually it's just me and the kids. And they said, oh, they're right here. And so the spouses came. My husband was nearby. When I said nobody knew in my family, I meant nobody. And so they came. And so I told them. And you have to know your children. Well, first of all, my husband was sitting by me like, what? My daughter immediately started crying. My son goes in research mode. So, at any rate, I told them, and the Sunday after I told them, I came to church and I asked Pastor Query and Sister Harrison if I could see them in Pastor's chambers after, it was after service, so I asked him if I could see him in his chambers when they finished. Now, Pastor, I apologize, I called a meeting in your office. I didn't even ask you. You can get me for that one. But they came and we sat down and I shared with them what was going on. Pastor stopped and prayed. We held hands and we prayed. I needed that prayer. Everybody on my support team was praying for me. I knew that. I could feel that. I was praying for myself. My children and my spouse were praying for me. But I needed somebody to sit down and pray over me right then. And that's what he did. And so we moved on. Well, right before the day of the surgery, I went to the Women's Center to get the marker implanted in my breast for surgery. There was a little nurse. She was so nice and reassuring, and she said, "Oh, baby, you're gonna be all right. I had this done twice." What? You mean 2 times? You got it in both breasts? And she said, "Oh no, I had it done twice in the same breast." Then I thought, I ain't got time to worry about your problems. I got my own. Glad you're all right, but that ain't my problem. You got to take care of this. And I kind of forgot about the conversation. And then I went on to the hospital, met my support team, was glad to see them, and then they came out and took me into surgery. Had the first surgery. Well, first of all, the doctor had told me I had a class 1, new term for me, because all I'd ever heard was stages. But I learned that that was slow growing. And so we went into surgery, and the week I went back for my 1-week post-op appointment, and she told me all of these things. She said it was a stage 1, and I just said, hallelujah, my prayer has been answered. I was so happy. And then she said, but we got a little problem. Wasn't no problem, because you got stage 1. That's what I prayed for. My prayer was answered. What's your problem? She said, I didn't get it all. Now, let me just tell you this. My tumor was less than a half of an inch. Like this. Like half of that first little part of your finger. Maybe a little less. How can you not get all of that? Was what I could have thought. But remember that nurse that was there that shared with me that she had had it twice because they didn't get it all? I began to realize God was speaking to me. I needed to listen. And so that's my second message to you. God speaks. We need to listen. And so he gave me that message. He prepared me, because I could have said my doctor's a quack. She got something this little and she can't get it all. But that's not what came to my mind. What came to my mind was that nurse had spoken to me. What came to my mind was I'd read a book by Robin Roberts that's called Everybody's Got Something. I figured this was my something. And so I just went ahead on and said, Lord, I thank you. Then the doctor said, but what I'm going back for is a 0, a stage 0. So after I kind of got myself together, I said, on my way home, I said, now Lord, and you know you're the great humorist. I said a 0 or a 1. I didn't say a 0 and a 1. I didn't have to do this 2 times. But God was gracious. He was good to me. So a week later, I was back in surgery. Now, mind you, this whole story started when I was just 2 weeks out of 2 serious eye operations. So I was not prepared to go through what I was getting ready to go through. But I'm going to tell you, throughout this process, God spoke to me. He shared with me some things that I needed to know, and he would tell me ahead of time. I just had to pay attention. Now I'm reading a book called You've Been Chosen. Both books were gifted to me. The first one was in retirement, and another from someone I don't even know. They're a friend of a friend. But it speaks to the out-of-body experience, because that's what it feels like. Because you know you're not supposed to get cancer. At least I thought I wasn't. And so you feel like this out-of-body experience, but it's real. You've got the scars to prove it. You've got the medication to prove it. You've got the medical care plan that's there to prove it, that you have to go through. My plan included radiation for a month. They told me that it was 16 days. I was getting happy, because you know for those of you that haven't done radiation, they put you on this machine. It is not comfortable. And you have to stay in place. So it's nothing like you can move and no, you have to get there. You have to be in place. Your arms are over your head, but you're holding a bar and your arms are resting on something to give you some support. And you have to stay there until your treatment is over. But they walk out the room and leave you. It's like they get you in place and they run out. Then you think you're supposed to stay in here? But you stay there and you get that treatment. That's time for nobody but you and God. That's the time that you have that conversation with him and you said, Lord, this must be your will for my life. Just help me to get through it. Help me, Lord, because I can't do it. If you have never been in a place where you thought you were not in control, that's it. You have no control. I'm going to say to you, God is speaking to us. Survivors, you know, you've walked it. Those of you that haven't walked it, in some other part of your life, you may learn it. Our journeys are all different. Some of us have cancer. Some of us have other things that we have in our lives. But remember, everybody's got something. But God gets us through all of it. And what we've got to do is just make sure that as he speaks to us, we listen. And not only listen, but we have to follow through on what he gives us. Again, ladies, please get your mammograms. I could never have felt mine. It was this small. It was picked up on a mammogram. Please get your mammograms. Thank you for listening, and God bless you as you take care of your own